My best friend encouraged me to confess my feelings to my childhood crush at our class reunion. But the truth was, the two of them had secretly been together for a long time. She only wanted to make me look like a fool in front of everyone. In the end, I ended up confessing my feelings to the most domineering guy in school. The same guy I secretly loved in my previous life, but never had the courage to tell. Surprised? The school's queen bee has been reborn, and this time, she's stronger than ever. When Sophie and I were waiting for the elevator at the KTV, several male students kept glancing in our direction. Isn't that Isabella Owens, the school beauty? She looks even prettier in person than in pictures. She's like a goddess. I wish I had a girlfriend like her. I really want to ask for her number, but she's so gorgeous I don't dare. Sophie stood next to me, her face calm and unreadable, but the hand hidden inside her sleeve tightened slightly. At that moment, I realized she might have been dissatisfied with me for a long time. Then, when she caught sight of a familiar figure, Sophie's expression instantly brightened. "Hey Caleb, over here?" she called out. Caleb smiled and quickened his steps toward us. As he got closer, I quietly took 2 steps back, not even glancing at him once. His steps faltered. In the past, I would have automatically walked toward him, even though his attitude was always full of impatience. "Isabella," Sophie nudged me with her elbow. "Didn't you have something to say to Caleb tonight? Come on, Isabella." I gently pushed her hand away. "I know." I turned my head to look elsewhere. 3 male students were walking toward us. "Hey Ryan, you came too? Man, that new sports car you bought is awesome. Let me drive it sometime." Ryan just woke up. He's not really in the mood to talk. Yeah, he wasn't planning to come, but something made him change his mind. My gaze fell on the guy they called Ryan Carter. He looked like he'd just woken up, his dark hair falling over his forehead, eyes half closed. One hand was in his pocket, the other casually spinning his car keys. Only when he caught my gaze did he freeze for a second and slowly raise his head. But the moment our eyes met, he quickly looked away. "Good evening, Ryan," I greeted him first. The people around us looked a little surprised. Ryan Carter, the school's notorious bad boy, and Isabella Owens, the school's beauty queen, no one thought the two of us even knew each other. Ryan hesitated for a moment, his voice low and rough. "Yeah, good evening." The 2 guys standing beside him exchanged glances full of meaning, then turned away, laughing quietly to themselves. Caleb, with that same impatient and superior tone, looked at me and asked smugly, "Since when did you and Ryan Carter get to know each other?" His voice still carried that controlling arrogance, but this time, I refused to go along with it. I looked him straight in the eyes and replied coldly, "What does it have to do with you?" Caleb's lips tightened and his expression darkened. "Isabella, why are you talking like that?" Sophie immediately stepped in to defend him. "Caleb's just trying to look out for you. He doesn't want you to get involved with someone like that. How can you be so harsh?" "Someone like that?" I stared at her. "You mean two-faced? Or someone full of lies and fake morals?" I paused, then added with a faint smile, "Don't get me wrong, I'm talking about you." Caleb and I had been childhood friends. When Sophie became my best friend, I introduced the 2 of them. She knew I had feelings for him, but she still secretly lured him toward her while encouraging me to confess to him, just so I'd embarrass myself. Even though I'd noticed Caleb's growing distance and irritation toward me, I never imagined that it was all because of her manipulation. Sophie clearly didn't expect that I would finally stand up for myself. Ryan suddenly grabbed my hand and hurriedly pulled me toward a corner, trying to remind me not to forget to confess my feelings to Caleb. But I firmly pulled my hand out of Sophie's grasp. She lost her balance and almost fell from the unexpected force. Immediately, Caleb rushed to steady her, his eyes filled with concern. Then, he turned to me with a look that could have torn me apart. "Isabella, what the hell are you doing? Apologize to Sophie now." His voice was sharp and commanding, loud enough that everyone nearby turned to look. He glared at me, taking one step after another toward me, forcing me to back away. The next moment, my back hit a firm chest behind me. I caught the faint scent of sandalwood, warm, calm, and masculine. Instinctively, I turned around, and my forehead brushed against the nose of the guy standing there. Ryan caught my arm, turned me gently, and positioned himself between me and Caleb. His palm was large and warm as he faced Caleb calmly. "Your voice sure carries," Ryan said evenly. "You sound just like my dog back home." He was standing there, protecting me. In my previous life, at this exact moment, Caleb had yelled at me so harshly that I burst into tears. I'd turned away to hide my face, quietly wiping my eyes. Ryan had been standing not far away back then, chatting idly with a few of his friends, but his gaze never left me. I remembered how he frowned, his jaw tight, and his fist clenched so hard against the wall that the veins in his arm bulged. That night, Caleb publicly rejected and humiliated me in front of everyone. I'd run back to the dorm crying. The next day, I heard that someone had beaten Caleb badly that same night, so badly he had to be hospitalized. Thinking back now, I was sure it had been Ryan who did it. "Ryan, don't say that," one of his friends spoke up teasingly. "Your mastiff back home looks way better than he does. I can vouch for that. And it's worth a lot more too." The guy stepped forward playfully, instantly drawing everyone's attention. The elevator doors slid open, but no one dared to step inside. "What, you want to fight?" Caleb asked coldly. No, Ryan replied, correcting him with a smirk. "A fight requires two sides. I can handle you all by myself." I didn't think Ryan was bluffing, so trying to ease the tension, I politely gestured toward the elevator. "After you, Caleb." "Go ahead." "All right, everyone's classmates here. It's all just a misunderstanding," someone muttered awkwardly. "Yeah, just a misunderstanding." Sophie, clearly shaken, quickly pushed Caleb toward the stairwell instead. Before leaving, she even gave me a quick wink. "Isabella, stop being so stubborn. Don't forget why we came here tonight." I truly wanted to slap her. In my previous life, it was because of Sophie's manipulation that I confessed to Caleb, and he rejected me cruelly. Right after that, he took Sophie's hand and publicly announced their relationship. From that moment on, I was labeled the other woman. Overnight, the admired school beauty became a laughingstock, the target of endless ridicule and gossip. The humiliation destroyed me. I fell into depression and eventually dropped out of school. During that dark time, I used to receive letters without a sender's name, short, handwritten notes that simply said, "Stay strong. Someone will always be by your side." Each letter came with a small green feather flower. It wasn't until the car accident that ended my life that I learned the truth. Those letters and flowers had all come from Ryan Carter, the very guy I used to secretly admire, the one who blushed every time we crossed paths. Thinking about everything from my past life, emotions flooded through me, my shoulders trembling slightly. Ryan must have noticed because he hesitated for a moment before softly calling my name. "Isabella," he said quietly. His tone sounded calm, but I could hear a gentleness I'd never noticed before. "Yeah," I replied after taking a deep breath, regaining my composure just as the elevator arrived. I nodded and immediately stepped into the elevator. "Careful," someone warned, but before I even noticed the doors starting to close, Ryan lunged forward and thrust out his arm to stop them just in time. A few people nearby gasped in surprise. I stumbled straight into his arms, and in that moment I could clearly hear my heartbeat racing. His hand was still braced against the elevator door as he leaned slightly toward me. His brows furrowed in focus. His nose was straight and well-defined, his lips soft and faintly red. I couldn't help but think, how could someone who's always out on the basketball court, getting into fights in the rain, still have skin so fair and smooth? While my mind was wandering, the elevator reached the rooftop lounge. Loud music was already blasting, but as soon as everyone saw Ryan Carter's cool, unreadable expression, they quickly turned the volume down. Honestly, I didn't think Ryan was in a bad mood, he just looked intimidating when he wasn't smiling. "Isabella, come sit with us," Sophie called out, waving her hand invitingly. Caleb looked straight at me too. In the past, just one look from him would have been enough to make me walk right over. But not anymore. Wherever Ryan and his friends sat, that's where I went instead. His two friends exchanged a stunned look before grinning. "What's going on tonight? The school beauty is sitting with us? Man, the guys over there must be dying of jealousy." Ryan gave a faint smirk and lightly smacked one of them on the head. "There's a lady here. Watch your mouth." For some reason, the notorious bad boy of the school suddenly seemed kind of cute. We sat there chatting in small groups, while Sophie kept throwing me glances across the room. I pretended not to notice, keeping my expression calm. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "Isabella, didn't you say you had something to tell Caleb tonight?" Her voice suddenly rose several pitches, drawing everyone's attention. "Don't leave any regrets. You've been holding your feelings in for years. Just tell him already. I really want to hear what you have to say." Her words were loaded with meaning, and soon the room filled with murmurs of curiosity. I smiled and nodded. "All right then. Tonight, I really do have something to say, in front of everyone." I didn't miss the flicker of excitement and jealousy in Sophie's eyes. "Come on, Isabella, say it," she urged, her voice trembling with anticipation. Caleb looked at me coldly, his expression tight with irritation. In the sudden silence, I stood up, walked over to Ryan Carter and spoke clearly. "Ryan, I've liked you for a long time. Will you be my boyfriend?" The entire room froze. It felt as if a bomb had gone off under the surface, shaking the air around us. "Oh my God," one of Ryan's friends blurted out, rushing forward to shove him playfully. Ryan stood motionless, his expression blank with shock. A soft pink spread from his earlobes across his pale cheeks. He swallowed hard, his dark eyes glinting with surprise. "Are you sure about that?" he asked in a husky voice. "Of course," I answered with a gentle smile. "What?" Sophie shrieked, completely losing control. She stormed over and stopped right in front of me. "Isabella, why are you confessing to Ryan? Weren't you going to confess to Caleb?" At the mention of Caleb's name, I saw Ryan's expression darken slightly. When I turned around, I found Caleb already on his feet, his face as black as thunder. I smiled faintly. "Why would I confess to him? He's not my type." Caleb had never looked like that before, his face twisted with shock, disbelief, and something that looked almost like pain. Every raw emotion flickered across his features as he stepped toward me. "Caleb, what are you doing?" Sophie instinctively grabbed his arm. I smiled at her. "Sophie, you really should stop trying so hard." "I should thank you," I said with a calm smile. "If you hadn't been so persistent in persuading me, I wouldn't have realized I actually like him. But isn't he your boyfriend? Right, Caleb?" I turned toward Caleb, and he answered my question with silence, an unspoken admission. Sophie's face went pale. Shock and panic flickered in her eyes as she tried desperately to explain, but by then, everyone around us had already formed their own opinions, especially the girls. They instantly understood what had really been going on tonight. Our class president, who was always blunt and straightforward, spoke up coldly. "That's disgusting. Always scheming behind your friend's back. People like you just pretend to be innocent to get attention from guys." Sophie's face flushed bright red in humiliation, but what truly surprised me was Caleb's reaction, or rather, his lack of one. He didn't say a single word in her defense, didn't even seem surprised. That was when I finally realized. He wasn't oblivious. He'd simply been condoning Sophie's behavior all along, quietly allowing her to bully and humiliate me. Caleb looked straight at me, his tone calm but patronizing. "Isabella, are you seriously doing this just to make me mad?" His self-confidence took me aback. I met his gaze, my voice steady. "Caleb, you trample all over my friendship and then expect me to heal myself and keep chasing after you. Where do you get the confidence to think you can keep hurting me and I'll still stay? Do you really believe I can't live without you?" He fell silent. Ryan, who had been frozen this whole time, suddenly stepped forward, standing protectively in front of me. His ears were flushed red, like ripe cherries. "Whether she's joking or not, she has nothing to do with you anymore." "But I'm not joking," I said innocently, blinking up at him. Then, without hesitation, I pulled him by the shoulder so he faced me and pressed my lips against his. Ryan's eyes went wide in shock. The whole room went silent for a beat, then erupted. "Oh my God, did I just witness this for free? Help, their chemistry is insane. My goddess, Isabella just kissed him. Honestly, only Ryan Carter is worthy of the school beauty." The guy I had just kissed seemed to forget how to breathe. There was a faint scar near the corner of his eye, half hidden by the shadow of his long lashes. He stared at me, completely still, his lashes unmoving, and somehow, that only made me more intrigued. Did he even realize how beautiful his eyes were? Teasing him felt like toying with an innocent boy. I brushed my lips against his again and whispered, "Ryan, why do you blush so easily? Don't tell me you've never even kissed your girlfriend before." His face turned an even deeper shade of red. Then suddenly, he grabbed the back of my neck and deepened the kiss with surprising force. In 2 lifetimes, this was my first real kiss, and I never expected to be the one to initiate it. Maybe I'd been overwhelmed by emotion, but the moment I saw him, I just wanted to kiss him. Was this what it felt like to start something real? Something sweet? I slowly closed my eyes. That night blurred by like a dream. In the end, it was Ryan Carter who walked me back to the dorm. As for Caleb and Sophie, I didn't spare them another glance. When I got back, I blocked them both from my contacts. A friendship between 3 people was always too crowded anyway. I didn't need them to push me out. I'd walk away on my own. Not long after I got to my room, there was a knock on the door. It was Sophie. She said I'd misunderstood everything and wanted to explain. She insisted she didn't have feelings for Caleb, and then asked me, "Isabella, do you really not like Caleb anymore? Didn't you say you liked him because he was handsome and mature, and that you two had been close since childhood?" I understood then. Sophie couldn't accept that the one thing she'd been so proud of, the only thing she'd ever won over me, was something I had now willingly let go of. Her feelings for Caleb might not have been love at all, just a need to compete with me. "Isabella, can you come out and talk to me for a minute?" she pleaded, knocking again and again. She stayed outside the door until my roommate came back and finally chased her away. My eyes were still fixed on my phone screen, the corners of my lips curling up uncontrollably. Ryan Carter had just added my contact that evening. His first message came through, and he sounded adorably dazed. "Are we really dating? I'm kind of naive, so don't trick me, okay?" I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I found a matching couple avatar and sent it to him. Within seconds, Ryan changed his profile picture to match mine. "I'm still a little too excited," he texted. I smiled and replied, "Calm down. Let's go to school together tomorrow. Good night, my boyfriend." "Good night, my girlfriend," he wrote back. Later, I heard from his roommate that "a little excited" was a serious understatement. That night, Ryan nearly wrecked his entire dorm room, then ran into the hallway shouting at the top of his lungs, "Isabella Owens is my girlfriend!" He kept yelling until nearly midnight. No one dared to stop him. In the end, he lost his voice completely, took a cold shower, and still couldn't calm down. So he went to the school track and ran several laps to burn off his excitement. That night, after putting my phone down, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. In my previous life, during the time I dropped out of school, my days revolved around medicine and doctor visits. I was no longer someone others admired. But before that, I had been an excellent student, smart, talented, able to sing and dance. I was the all-around school beauty that everyone looked up to, the girl others aspired to become. Once I fell from that pedestal, everyone seemed to forget I even existed. Everyone except him. Ryan Carter never abandoned me. Because of him, eventually no one dared to gossip behind my back. In fact, during the school's annual beauty contest, Ryan publicly wrote my name on his ballot. On the day of the voting event, I was sitting by the window at home, wondering if I even wanted to go on living. My mother entered the room, trembling, holding her phone with tears in her eyes. "Sweetheart, look, your classmates haven't forgotten you. That boy, he wrote your name." On the live stream from the school auditorium, Ryan Carter stood out in a black suit, something he rarely wore. He looked formal and striking. Alone, he walked up to the stage, indifferent to the hundreds of eyes watching him. Usually so aloof, he now seemed completely serious, as he placed the ballot card with my name, Isabella Owens, onto the table. A single vote, yet it shone brighter than any other name there. Sunlight streamed across the stage, and as he looked down at the card in his hand, a faint smile tugged at his lips. To be honest, that year's school beauty contest didn't even matter anymore. The difference was too great. The host, clearly caught off guard by the situation, hesitated before asking, "Ryan, are you sure about your choice?" "Of course I'm sure," Ryan said confidently, raising his head to look straight into the camera. "I'm Ryan Carter. Once I choose someone, I'll choose her again and again, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, until the day I stop breathing." I stared at the screen, stunned. Then, out of nowhere, I remembered the anonymous letters that had once encouraged me when I was at my lowest. One of them had a small drawing on the front, a girl walking a little dog that looked kind of silly, wearing a black outfit with a tiny scar under one eye. On the back were these words: "The little dog will never leave you. The little dog will always be loyal and warm to you." Thinking about that silly little drawing, I couldn't help but laugh. It was the first time I'd smiled since my illness began. My mother stood frozen for a moment, shocked to see me smiling again. Then tears filled her eyes, and she rushed forward to hug me tightly. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, I will never again disappoint those who truly care about me, and I will never allow anyone to destroy me so easily. Early the next morning, Ryan Carter and I walked hand in hand through the school courtyard. People passing by couldn't help but glance at us again and again. Normally, Ryan's hair was styled carelessly, always slightly messy in that rebellious way of his, but today his bangs fell naturally across his forehead, softening his sharp features. Combined with those deep black eyes, he somehow looked unexpectedly gentle. Suddenly, I had the overwhelming urge to kiss him. Just then, we passed by a little kid clutching a stick of candied hawthorns. The child's big, bright eyes sparkled with liveliness, and I was immediately captivated. Embarrassed, I pointed toward the kid and said to Ryan, "Look at that. I want one of those too." What I really wanted to say was, "I want to have a child like that with you." But of course, I didn't dare. Still, I couldn't help thinking that if Ryan and I had a baby together, the child would definitely be adorable. Ideally, one boy and one girl. The boy would look like him, the girl like me. Ryan seemed to misunderstand completely. He nodded earnestly and said with full confidence, "Got it. Whatever someone else has, you'll have too." Then he looked around for a moment, let go of my hand, and suddenly bolted off in another direction. "Where are you going?" I asked. Startled, he didn't turn around, just called out while running faster, "Wait for me, I'll bring you that candied hawthorn." I sighed. "Ryan Carter, can you not be such an airhead for once?" Shaking my head, I sat down on a bench by the path and pulled out my phone to play a game while waiting for him. After a while, light footsteps stopped in front of me. "Ryan, is that you?" I asked without looking up. But when I lifted my gaze, the smile on my lips vanished instantly. It wasn't Ryan, it was Caleb. He was rarely this calm when he spoke to me. In his hand was a steaming paper bag that smelled faintly of freshly made buns. "You probably haven't eaten yet, have you? These are the ones from that place downtown, the kind you used to love." He held the bag out to me. Without hesitation, I slapped it from his hand. The buns fell to the ground, scattering across the pavement. "Caleb, do you have any idea?" I said coldly. "You've already hurt me once, physically and emotionally. The one thing I'll never allow myself to do is repeat the same mistake." I paused briefly, then added, "Sorry, but my boyfriend's about to take me out to eat." Still, I didn't like littering, so I bent down, picked up the paper bag, and threw it neatly into the trash can. Caleb just stood there, still smiling faintly as he watched me. "Isabella, you've always been such a proud girl." "And you," I replied sharply, "have always been such a lunatic." I turned to leave, but his voice suddenly rose behind me. "Have you ever seen Ryan Carter drunk, starting fights with his friends? Have you seen him at bars gambling and drinking with strangers? Do you even know how many girls hang around him? For all you know, he's just toying with you." I stopped and turned back, expressionless. His tone softened a little. "You've never even really known him before, Isabella. Do you honestly like someone like Ryan Carter? He's reckless, irresponsible. He's not good enough for you." Before he could finish, I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. He froze in disbelief, touching the side of his cheek where my hand had landed. "You hit me, for him?" "That's right," I said with a cold smile, my eyes sharp. "You insult my boyfriend, call him unworthy, and you expect me not to hit you? You're lucky I didn't kill you." Caleb stared at me, eyes wide with confusion and something that looked almost like fear. Yes, in the past, I'd been soft, too soft. I never raised my voice, never stood up for myself. Every time I cried because of him, he'd sneer and say I was just a pampered flower, too delicate to survive outside a greenhouse. He'd tell me to find some guy who would spoil me, because he never would. But back then, I hadn't cried because I was weak. I'd cried because it hurt, because he'd never once chosen to stand by me. "Caleb." a voice screamed suddenly. It was Sophie. I hadn't even realized she was nearby until she came running out from where she'd been hiding, frantically grabbing Caleb's face to check on him. "Does it hurt? Are you badly injured?" "Isabella, that was too much. How could you do that to Caleb?" Sophie's voice kept droning on, sharp and shrill, but Caleb didn't even glance at her. His eyes were fixed on me, steady and unreadable. Then he suddenly cut her off. "Isabella, you've changed." "Thank you for noticing," I said coolly, pulling a tissue from my pocket, wiping my hand clean and tossing it into the trash can. Sophie grabbed Caleb's arm, her tone gloomy. "Let's go, Caleb." He let her pull him away, but after a few steps he turned back to look at me again, his eyes clouded with a mix of frustration and confusion. I met his gaze without a hint of emotion, then turned away. Under the canopy of trees ahead, a tall figure stood waiting, Ryan Carter, holding a stick of candied hawthorns. In the pale morning light, he smiled at me, that familiar, warm smile that seemed to melt away everything else. My eyes lit up instantly. "Ryan?" I broke into a run and threw myself into his arms. He caught me easily, wrapping his long arms around my waist, pulling me close. I buried my face against his chest, thinking how wonderful it felt to be held like this. His arms were strong enough to wrap around me completely. "Isabella," Ryan's soft, gentle voice came from above my head. "You didn't have to stand up for me. I've never cared what others say." "I know," I murmured, hugging him tighter, "but I won't let anyone insult my boyfriend." He laughed quietly, the sound deep and soothing. I held him even closer. Unlike the countless times before, when I had to watch Caleb and Sophie walk away together, this time, I was the one confidently holding Ryan's hand in front of them. Like a girl proudly showing off something precious, I wrapped both arms around his and walked beside him while he fed me candied hawthorn one piece at a time. As we made our way toward the cafeteria, I thought to myself, you don't need to learn how to love. When you meet the right person, you just know. While we were eating, I overheard a few girls at the next table whispering, "I can't believe Ryan Carter actually smiles. Wow, he's even more handsome when he does." Her friend nudged her quickly. "Shh. He's taken, remember? He and Isabella Owens are totally perfect together." That morning, the computer science department, Ryan's department, didn't have any scheduled classes, so he followed me to mine. My class was small, not many students, but the moment Ryan walked in with me, everyone suddenly sat up straight, wide awake. What caused an even bigger stir, though, was the arrival of Lydia Dean, a girl who used to be one of the most notorious students in school, and who had often been seen hanging out with Ryan and his friends. She'd taken a leave of absence recently, and everyone thought she wouldn't be coming back anytime soon. But today, Lydia had returned, with her hair dyed black again. For the first time, she wore it down instead of in her usual high ponytail, which made her thin, sharp features look even more striking. She was dressed in a white cropped Chanel-style outfit, the jacket left open just enough to reveal a lacy camisole underneath. A few male students turned red instantly, unable to look straight at her. I suddenly remembered. Lydia Dean had once been voted the beauty of the computer science department, but later she'd started cross-dressing to blend in with Ryan and his group of friends. When Ryan and I walked into the classroom together, Lydia's gaze locked onto us immediately. Well, she said, her tone teasing. "Ryan, you actually came to class?" He didn't even bother looking at her. Instead, he led me to the back row and pulled out a chair for me before sitting down beside me. Lydia gave a short, sarcastic laugh and turned around in her seat. "Oh, come on, it's not that serious, is it? Just because I confessed to you and failed, you're going to avoid me like the plague? What, we can't still be friends? I can still be your little bro, just like before, right?" Ryan let out a cold snort and didn't say a word. Instead, he calmly grabbed a napkin and began wiping down the desk in front of me, completely ignoring her. Lydia Dean kept talking, this time turning her gaze toward me. "Ryan, now I finally get it. You like girls like her," she said with a half smile. "But really, what makes me so different from her? Why can't you even look at me once?" Ryan Carter's jaw tightened. He clearly reached his limit. "I don't like raising my voice to girls," he said through gritted teeth. "So just behave, all right?" Lydia laughed lightly and flipped open a comic book on her desk. "Love or no love, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? If I wasn't mistaken, The comic she was reading was exactly the type Ryan used to like. But right now, instead of paying her any attention, Ryan was frowning over my advanced calculus textbook, flipping through it with exaggerated seriousness. "Can you even solve that problem?" I teased, leaning a little closer. He glanced up at me, and his cheeks turned crimson. He nodded, then quickly shook his head. "Then I'll teach you," I said playfully, winking at him. That only made him blush harder. He looked so adorably flustered that I had to bite back a laugh. I picked up my pen and started explaining the problem step by step. When I finally finished and looked up, I caught him staring at me. The moment our eyes met, he looked away instantly. "Ryan Carter," I said in mock seriousness, "were you looking at the book or at me?" He peeked up at me, then lowered his gaze again, looking like a puppy who'd just been scolded. "Ryan," I added, teasing him, "if you keep staring at me like that, the professor's gonna call you out." His eyelids fluttered slightly before he replied softly, "Then I'll take the risk. I'd still rather look at you." In that moment, an image flashed through my mind, the drawing from the old anonymous letter, of a girl walking ahead, while a small dog followed her faithfully, never taking its eyes off her. "Ryan Carter, this time, I won't let you be the one left waiting." When class ended, a male student called Ryan outside for something. The moment he left, Lydia Dean walked straight over and sat down beside me. She didn't say anything at first, just rested her chin on her hand and studied me intently. I closed my book calmly. "You were staring at me all through class. Still not tired of it?" Lydia chuckled. "Isabella, it looks like he really likes you. Honestly, everyone says you're beautiful, but I'm still surprised he chose you." I raised a brow. "Why's that?" "Not because you're not good enough," she said quickly, shaking her head. "It's just that, to me, Ryan Carter has always been the best. The kind of person you can't help but admire." I looked into her eyes. Those sharp, fox-like eyes were stunning. But instead of jealousy or resentment, I saw genuine admiration, maybe even understanding. It felt like an unspoken connection between girls who'd both cared deeply for the same boy. I could tell she didn't mean any harm. "I understand how you feel," I said quietly. "But don't worry, I'll take good care of him." Lydia smiled faintly, twirling a strand of my hair between her fingers. "You know, when I first met him, I had the same hairstyle as you. I used to wear my hair down too." Her tone softened as she continued. "The first time I met Ryan, I was being cornered by a group of thugs. No one stopped to help me, except him. He came out of nowhere on his motorcycle, crashed straight into the group, and stood in front of me." Her eyes lit up as she spoke, her smile widening. I can still remember his face under the streetlights, cold and defiant. His eyes had that wild spark, but they were so clear. He had this dangerous kind of charm. I remember him looking at those guys so calmly and saying, "Get on the bike." That was the first time I rode with him. She laughed softly, a mix of nostalgia and bitterness in her voice. After that, I just wanted to follow him everywhere. I tied up my hair, dressed like one of the guys, and stuck by his side. At first, he didn't let me. But after a few times of me getting into fights because of him, making enemies he didn't even ask for, he finally gave up and let me stay. Lydia's smile faltered a little, the light in her eyes dimming. I used to think, if I could just stay by his side forever, I thought I'd have a chance, Lydia Dean said softly. But I was wrong, Isabella. This is the first time I've ever lost to someone. And that person is you. Your appearance took away everything I had. I looked at Lydia with genuine sympathy. Placing a hand gently on her shoulder, I opened my mouth to offer a few words of comfort, when suddenly, Sophie came rushing toward us. She must have heard all the rumors floating around campus. At that moment she looked pale and agitated, her emotions barely under control. "Isabella, it's true," she blurted out breathlessly. "I was with Caleb before. It was my fault. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. But it wasn't all me. It was him. Honestly, I only accepted him because I had no choice." Lydia frowned slightly, her expression curious and skeptical. Sophie went on quickly. "But it's over between us now. Isabella, you'll always be my best friend. Men are all trash anyway. Forget them. Let's just go back to how things were, okay? Best friends, like before. Please?" She gripped my hand tightly, tears welling in her eyes. I smiled faintly. "Is that what you want?" Thinking I was still the same naive girl she could manipulate, Sophie's voice softened. trembling with false sincerity. "I knew you wouldn't abandon me. You've always been the best friend anyone could have. That Ryan Carter guy, he's not bullying you, is he? If he ever dares to upset you, I'll take your side." "That's enough," a sharp voice cut in. Lydia Dean sat cross-legged on a nearby desk, smirking coldly. "God, I can't listen to this anymore. Seriously, lady, they're a happy couple. What business do you have sticking your nose in? Who do you think you are?" Sophie stiffened. She didn't know Lydia, but she definitely knew her reputation. No one in school wanted to cross her. Instinctively, she took 2 steps back and muttered, "I just wanted what's best for Isabella. I was only speaking from her point of view. If you don't like it, fine." "She didn't say anything wrong," I said slowly, my tone calm but cutting. "Lydia is right." I turned to Sophie, meeting her eyes. "Who do you think I am? If I remember correctly, back when Caleb and I were still close, you were the one shouting every day about how you'd protect me, how you'd never let anyone bully me. And yet, you're the one who snuck behind my back to date him, turning me into the outsider. Now you're trying to pull the same stunt with Ryan Carter?" Lydia blinked, then suddenly looked enlightened. "Oh, I get it now. A classic mix of fake innocence and snake-like manipulation. Studying how to steal your best friend's boyfriend? Impressive career choice, honestly." Sophie, who had already been through one blow after another since last night, looked completely stunned. Even someone like Lydia, a near stranger, had seen right through her facade. Her face twisted with anger, and she stomped her foot before storming out of the classroom. When I turned back to Lydia, our eyes met and we both burst out laughing. "Maybe we could actually be friends," I said. She smirked. "Forget it. You're still my rival in love, but fine. I admit it. I came here today just to try one last time. I lost. I can accept that. Just don't let me see you two again, okay?" When Ryan returned to class, Lydia Dean was already gone. Her comic book, the one she'd been flipping through all morning, lay discarded in the trash. The first page was open and on it was a single handwritten line, messy but clear. "Ryan Carter, could you like Lydia Dean just a little?" The days that followed felt like swimming in honey. Ryan spoiled me endlessly, listening to everything I said as if under a spell. Every day he brought me gifts, little surprises, as if trying to give me every good thing in the world. That arrogant, rebellious edge he once had seemed to vanish overnight. His hairstyle and clothes had changed. He looked more like a model student now, and he smiled so much more often. He was proud of us, too. He never missed a chance to tell his friends, beaming like a kid, "I've got a girlfriend." He talked so much more now, so much that the people who used to know him could hardly recognize him anymore. But later, I realized that Ryan Carter hadn't actually changed his nature at all. He was still impulsive, still drawn to danger and adventure. He just learned to hide those sharp, reckless edges whenever he was with me. Once, he even handed me the keys to his favorite sports car. But I firmly refused, because I already had the most precious gift he could ever give me: the beautiful blue balloon flowers, and the handwritten letters he'd sent when I was at my loneliest, most helpless moments. In contrast, Caleb and Sophie's situation had completely reversed. Sophie's reputation had fallen apart. She was now living through the same humiliation and isolation that I had endured in my previous life. Caleb, meanwhile, had become much quieter. He carried a kind of heavy restraint about him, as if the weight of regret was pressing down on his shoulders. More than once, when Ryan and I walked hand in hand down the street, I happened to see Caleb somewhere nearby. Though we never greeted each other, every time we passed I could still feel his burning gaze trailing after me, intense, full of emotion, and impossible to ignore. Time slipped by quickly, and soon it was Christmas Eve. In my previous life, that was the night I died. This year, Christmas Eve came with a heavy snowfall. Moonlight blanketed the ground, turning everything into a world of shimmering white. My lips were chapped for some reason, and I got so irritated that I didn't talk to Ryan for half a day. It wasn't until later that I finally gave in and agreed to go out with him. Trying to imitate something he'd seen on social media, Ryan showed up with a huge Christmas gift box. Inside, along with shiny red apples, were stacks of bright red bills. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His generosity left me speechless. He had such a blunt, straightforward way of showing affection that I couldn't even be mad. The pedestrian street was crowded with couples. The girls' cheeks were rosy from the cold, their hands tucked snugly inside their boyfriends' pockets. Only Ryan, in his clueless charm, left his coat unzipped and acted like he didn't even feel the cold. He pulled me close against him, his fingers intertwined with mine. "Aren't you freezing?" I asked. He grinned, eyes gleaming. "Not at all. Actually, I feel kind of hot." I laughed softly. Lately, I had almost forgotten that my boyfriend used to be one of the most notorious troublemakers in school. Now he just looked like a dorky, love-struck boy. He even started feeding stray cats and dogs around campus, becoming patient and gentle with everyone. We were walking along the busy street when suddenly a commotion broke out nearby. I didn't know why, but the moment I heard the noise, my heart began pounding violently. A cold, instinctive fear crept through my veins, as if it had seeped into my very bones. I shook my head, trying to stay calm. It turned out that a drunk man had stumbled and fallen on top of a woman. Her boyfriend got angry and wanted to teach him a lesson, but the drunk man's friends quickly rushed over. The girl panicked, insisting it was a misunderstanding, and dragged her boyfriend away. "Forget it," one of the drunks sneered, brushing off his hands. "There are plenty of girls like that around. Come on, I'll take you to that bar over there. Let's drive." Ryan stopped walking. His eyes darkened and thin veins appeared around his pupils. "Isabella, wait here," he said quietly. "I'll get you a chocolate milk tea. There are police officers nearby. Just sit here and don't move. I'll be right back." His voice was calm, almost too calm, and that made my chest tighten. Something felt wrong, but I nodded anyway. Ryan had barely been gone for a few minutes when I saw the person I least wanted to see. Caleb. The man who used to wear pale shirts was now dressed head to toe in black. He stood a few steps away, silent, his eyes fixed on me, but I had made a promise to Ryan Carter, and I wasn't about to break it. I had promised Ryan that I would stay and wait for him, so I wasn't about to leave that spot so easily. Crossing my legs, I leaned back on the bench, pretending to look relaxed. It was ironic to think that Caleb had once told me he could never like a girl who was reckless and sharp-edged. How funny. Back then, I bought countless long blue dresses just because Caleb liked girls who wore light blue shirts. Lydia Dean had tied her hair up and then let it down again because she wanted to suit Ryan Carter's taste. Ryan, in turn, had reshaped himself into a model student. All for me. And now Caleb, the one who had once hated dark clothes, stood before me dressed entirely in black. Everyone changes themselves for the person they love, but no one realizes that love itself is a kind of destruction. It breaks every rule you thought you knew, and someone will always come along who turns your entire world upside down. That person might not be perfect, but the moment they appear, something inside you whispers, "It's this one." "Isabella." Caleb finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. "Can't we go back to how things were?" "How things were? Before Sophie?" I asked quietly. I remembered the days in middle and high school when Caleb used to give me rides to class on his bicycle. He rarely spoke, while I chattered endlessly beside him. He would just listen, his face expressionless. Maybe only the wind knew whether he'd ever smiled during those rides. Because I drew too much attention at school, he used to say he hated the gossip that followed when people saw us together. He made me promise not to act like we knew each other while on campus. And after Sophie appeared, he would show up with 1 cup of bubble tea, strawberry flavor, Sophie's favorite, while I sat next to her, pretending not to care. He forgot that I liked bubble tea too, and that my favorite flavor was chocolate. "Caleb," I said coldly, "what exactly are you asking for? Going back to the past, what's the point? The one you love is Sophie. She gave herself to you completely." "She's pretending," he murmured, avoiding my gaze. I smiled bitterly. "So you finally admit it. You let her torment me, and you thought it was fun, didn't you?" His eyes flickered. "Isabella, I just wanted you to stop standing out so much. You shine too brightly. I always felt like you'd never stay with me forever." "I'm sorry," he said suddenly. It was the first time in my life I had ever heard Caleb apologize, but the words came too late. They meant nothing now. "There's nothing left for us to say," I whispered. "Some people see a rose and admire its beauty. Others only fear its thorns and do everything they can to make it wither. A selfish person like you doesn't deserve forgiveness." Before he could reply, a figure came running toward us in panic. Lydia Dean's face was pale, her breath uneven, tears trembling in her eyes. "Isabella, something's wrong," she cried. "Ryan Carter. He's fighting. There are a lot of them, and they're drunk. Call the police now." By the time we reached the alley, shattered glass covered the ground. Blood was smeared across the pavement, and several men lay sprawled around, groaning. My heart felt like it was going to explode. "Don't move forward," I said, my voice trembling but steady. I had never been so calm and yet so close to breaking. Caleb and Lydia both froze, startled by the look on my face. Caleb tried to step ahead, but Lydia grabbed his arm sharply. "Let her go," she said firmly. "Isabella, if something's wrong, call us right away. The police and ambulance are on their way." I nodded, because right now, I knew Ryan would only want to see me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward into the alley. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, each one bruised and bloodied, beaten with clubs and pipes. I couldn't even imagine how my boyfriend, Ryan Carter, had faced all of them alone, with no one to help him. But he had won. He wasn't unscathed. His body was trembling, battered and torn. But he had fought with reckless courage until the very end. And Sophie was there too. She was on her knees, trembling all over, whispering something in a shaky voice. Then I realized. She was the same girl who'd been harassed earlier by that drunk man. The boy who had been beside her at the time was Caleb. Caleb could never give up the gentle, obedient sweetness of Sophie, yet he also couldn't bring himself to let go of his so-called childhood bond with me. A man like that, how could I feel anything but disgust? Sophie's entire body was shaking violently now. She stammered something again, then suddenly fainted, collapsing onto the pavement. Ryan, who had been struggling to keep himself upright, finally let the wooden stick in his hand drop to the ground and fell forward. I caught him just before he hit the pavement. "Isabella." His shoulder was damp, and only then did I realize it was from my tears. I hadn't even noticed that I was crying. "What are you crying for, Isabella?" he asked, pale but smiling faintly, that same reckless smile I loved. "Look, I took them all down by myself." He said it like a proud little boy waiting for praise. Then his voice softened. "Isabella, I had a dream so real it felt like another life. In it, that same drunk driver hit you. You died right in front of me. I went crazy. I remember his face, I could never forget it. So when I saw him again tonight, when I heard Sophie say she was going to lead them somewhere, the memory of that dream came rushing back. I couldn't stop myself." A choked laugh escaped me, half sob, half relief. Even in this lifetime, just like the last, he hadn't hesitated to risk everything for me. The one who always shielded me, who never let anyone hurt me. He had never changed. Ryan rested his head against my shoulder, his voice a faint whisper. "This time, it's different from the dream, Isabella. This time, I finally got to protect you." I bit my lip, blinking back the sting in my eyes. My fingers brushed over his face, gently tracing every line, every mark. "My little puppy," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I came to take you home." In my past life, the last letter Ryan ever sent me had been written in the language of flowers, catenary bellflower, everlasting love, and hopeless love. My love for you is eternal. But I know, I may never see the day you return. You probably don't even know there's someone named Ryan Carter. You probably don't even realize that blue, the color of the dress you wore the first time I saw you, is still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. That day, you were walking down a tree-lined path, wearing that flowing blue dress and carrying your backpack. The moment I saw you, my whole world became brighter and clearer. I'd never seen a girl so beautiful. I pointed to you and told my friend, "That's Isabella Owens. I'm going to chase her no matter what." But the funny thing is, I later realized I was a coward. I only ever dared to watch you from afar, too scared to take a single step closer. All those accidental encounters we had, every one of them was planned. I rehearsed them over and over, just to have a reason to see you. And then one day, I finally understood, a girl as radiant as you belonged to the world, not to Ryan Carter. That same day, I wanted to see you so badly. For the first time, I forced my weak body to leave the house and ran out into the street to find you. But I was in such a hurry, I didn't see the car coming. And that was the moment my story ended. In the midst of tragedy, there was still a trace of fortune, because I had been given another chance at life. Isabella Owens didn't belong to the world she once knew. She belonged to Ryan Carter, my little puppy, the one I loved more than anyone, the one I would never ever let go of again. The sound of sirens grew louder. Both an ambulance and police cars arrived at the scene. I handed Ryan over to Lydia Dean, trusting her to take care of him, and went straight to the police station myself. I couldn't let his wounds, his fight, be for nothing. Even though I didn't yet have proof that Sophie had hired that drunk driver to hit me, the fact that the man had assaulted people meant I could make sure he paid the price. Later, the Carter family's outrage shook everything. Their precious heir had nearly been killed, and they hired one of the best lawyers in the city to make sure the man responsible went to prison. That came afterward, but when I first arrived at the station, I deliberately brought up Sophie's name. The police soon began to investigate her. At first, she insisted she was the victim, that she hadn't done anything wrong. But when the officers compared her statement with the testimonies of the gang members, her lies started to unravel. Eventually, the truth came out. She had hired them. The charge was only attempted assault, since her plan had failed. But even if she escaped prison, I made sure she wouldn't escape public judgment. I spread the truth, the filth and cruelty behind her carefully crafted image. Her reputation, already damaged, quickly collapsed entirely. People began to despise her, mock her, isolate her, just as they had done to me in my past life. Except this time, it was worse. In the end, Sophie couldn't take it. She filed for academic suspension and left the university temporarily, hoping the scandal would fade. As for Caleb, he had already abandoned her long before that. Selfish as ever, he didn't want to be connected to someone with such a tainted name. When he saw how ruthless I could be, he stopped trying to approach me, but I didn't forgive him either. After all, in my past life, it was Caleb who had indulged Sophie's cruelty, who'd helped her humiliate me, who'd pushed me into depression. Ryan Carter was unconscious in the hospital for a week. When he finally woke up, the first thing he did was ask for me. His voice trembled when he said, "Isabella, don't die. Even if the whole world turns its back on you, I'll still be here. I'll always be with you." My eyes burned. In our past life, he had already proven those words true. But now, I wasn't that same naive girl anymore. I smiled through my tears and told him softly, "I know." From that day on, Ryan harbored a deep hatred for Caleb and Sophie. He began sending his people to quietly make their lives difficult. Even after Sophie left school, she couldn't escape him. Everywhere she tried to work, she was fired. Companies dug up her past and spread it around until no one wanted to hire her. In the end, she had no choice but to go back to her hometown. But even there, people had already heard about her scandalous life in college. They called her a hypocrite, said her morals were rotten. No one wanted to associate with her, afraid she'd betray them too. Her parents, humiliated and desperate, planned to marry her off to a widowed man in a nearby town. Sophie, unwilling to accept her fate, ran away in the middle of the night. I got the news from a private investigator the same day I was preparing for a major science competition. This time, Ryan and I competed together, and we completely crushed Caleb, leaving him in utter defeat. In my past life, Caleb had been the champion of that contest, but in this one, he didn't even place. Ryan had already bribed one of his teammates, sowing discord within their group. Then came the final blow. Caleb was accused of plagiarism, copying someone else's project. After the competition ended, he came looking for me. I refused to see him. Ryan, seeing how much Caleb annoyed me, found other tasks to keep himself busy, throwing his energy into them so he wouldn't have time to meddle in my mood. Meanwhile, Caleb's grades plummeted. He lost his motivation, spent his nights drinking and smoking, and the once brilliant top student became a shadow of himself. A year later, Sophie returned to campus. Somehow, she and Caleb ended up tangled together again. Two fallen stars, infamous and pathetic. By then, Ryan and I lived in a world far removed from theirs. Their glory days were over. Their future was bleak, beyond repair. I hired people to keep an eye on them from a distance, while I focused on living, truly living, for the first time. It was just the two of us now. In my past life, Ryan Carter had stayed by my side through his letters. In this one, I would stay by his side with every heartbeat, with my whole life.